Dr. Gina Kim stared at the strange readings on her computer screen. The numbers made no sense. Energy patterns like this should not exist in space, especially not in the empty sector around research station Kepler-4 for it to be. Dong-Soo, come look at this, she called to her research partner. Dr. Dong-Soo Park rolled his chair over from his own workstation. His dark eyes studied the display with growing concern. This is impossible, Dong-Soo whispered. The energy signature is massive, but our sensors show nothing out there. Gina brushed a strand of black hair from her face. She had been studying neural patterns and brain activity for 12 years. She knew how to read data that others might miss. But this was different. This felt wrong. Maybe it's equipment failure, suggested Hai-Jin Lee, the military liaison assigned to their small research team. The young officer walked over to join them, her hand resting casually on her sidearm. These old stations have problems all the time. Gina shook her head. No, look at the pattern. It's too organized to be random interference. Something is generating this energy. Something big. The research station orbited a dead planet in the outer rim of human space. Only 3 people lived there full-time. Kina and Dong-Soo studied how isolation affected the human brain. They wanted to understand why some colonists went crazy on distant worlds, while others stayed perfectly sane. Their work was important. Humanity was spreading across the galaxy faster than ever before. New colonies appeared every month on worlds dozens of light years from Earth. But strange things happened to people who lived too far from other humans. Some heard voices that were not there. Others forgot how to speak. A few became violent for no reason at all. Gina believed the answer lay in understanding how human consciousness worked. She had spent years mapping brain patterns and neural networks. Her research could help millions of colonists live better, lives in the vast emptiness of space. But right now, all she could think about was the impossible energy reading on her screen. We need to investigate, she said finally. There's some kind of natural phenomenon out there. We should document it. Hai-Jin frowned. My orders are to keep this station safe. Going toward unknown energy sources does not sound safe. It's probably just space dust or solar radiation, Dong-Soo said. But Gina is right. We should at least take a closer look with our long-range scanners. Gina began programming the station's sensor array to focus on the energy source. The readings grew stronger and more complex. Whatever was out there, it was not natural. The patterns showed clear signs of artificial construction. It's a ship, she breathed, or maybe a space station. The energy signature matches advanced technology. Dijin stepped closer to the display. Her training had taught her to recognize different types of spacecraft, but this signature was unlike anything in the human database. It's not one of ours, she said quietly. The power output is too high. Human ships don't generate energy like this, okay? The 3 researchers looked at each other in silence. First contact with alien life had always been a possibility, but it had never happened before. Humanity had explored hundreds of star systems and found ruins of ancient civilizations, but no living aliens. We need to report this immediately, Hai-Jin said, moving toward the communications console. Wait, Gina called. Let's gather more data first. This really is first contact. We want to have complete information. Dong-Soo nodded. She's right. This could be the most important discovery in human history. We should be careful and thorough. Hai-Jin hesitated, then stepped back from the communications panel. 5 minutes. Then we called this in 2 headquarters. Gina worked quickly, directing every sensor on the station toward the mysterious energy source. Slowly, an image began to form on the main display. What they saw made them all step back in amazement. The object was enormous. It stretched 4 kilometers through space, its surface covered with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. The ship, if that's what it was, looked nothing like human technology. Its design followed principles that human engineers had never considered. "It's beautiful," Dong-Su whispered. "It's moving," Hai-Jen said sharply. "The object is changing course. It's coming toward us." Na felt her heart begin to race. The alien ship had been drifting slowly through space when they first detected it. Now its energy output was increasing rapidly. A quote, it was accelerating directly toward their research station. "How long until it reaches us?" she asked. Hai-Jen checked her instruments. "At current speed, approximately 40 minutes. "That's enough time to evacuate," Dong-Su said. "We have an emergency shuttle." But Gina was still staring at the alien ship. Something about its energy patterns reminded her of her brain research. The signals coming from the vessel looked similar to neural activity in the human brain. "No," she said slowly. "This isn't random. Look at these patterns. They're too organized, too purposeful. This ship is scanning us, studying us, just like we're studying it." As if responding to her words, the alien vessel suddenly changed again. New energy patterns appeared across its surface. The readings on Gina's instruments spiked higher than ever before. "Something's happening," Hai-Jen said, her hand moving to her weapon. The lights in the research station flickered. Computer screens went dark for a moment, then came back online, showing different information. Gina tried to access her research files, but the computer would not respond to her commands. "They're interfering with our systems," Dong-Su said, panic creeping into his voice. Gina felt a strange pressure building in her head. It started as a mild headache, but quickly grew stronger. She pressed her palms against her temples, trying to make the pain stop. "Something's wrong," she gasped. "I feel different." "Jin, we're experiencing the same sensation." All three humans staggered as waves of alien thoughts began pressing against their minds. The last thing Jenna saw before losing consciousness was the alien ship filling their view screen, its surface pulsing with colors that human eyes had never seen before. 6 months had passed since the capture. Dr. Gina Kim stood perfectly still in the alien laboratory, her hands working with precise movements on a complex neural scanner. Her face showed no emotion as she recorded data about human brain patterns. She looked exactly like herself, but something fundamental had changed. Her thoughts were no longer her own. The Valkyrie had been thorough in their control. Gina still remembered her past life, her research, her feelings for Dong-Su, but those memories felt distant now, like scenes from a movie she had watched long ago. What mattered now was serving her new masters. Keth, her primary controller, moved silently behind her. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. When he spoke, his words appeared directly in Gina's mind, without sound. "Show me the neural pathways for human memory." "Storage," Keth commanded. Gina's hands moved automatically across the control panel. A three-dimensional image of a human brain appeared in the air above them. Different sections glowed with various colors as she highlighted the areas Keth wanted to see. "The hippocampus stores short-term memories here," she explained in a flat, emotionless voice. "Long-term memories are distributed across the cortex in these patterns. The connections between neurons determine how strongly each memory is held." Keth studied the display with interest. The Valkyrie had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, but humans were proving more complex than expected. Their brains worked differently from other races. Understanding these differences was crucial for more efficient control. "Your species shows remarkable neuroplasticity," Keth observed. "This explains why some humans require more intensive conditioning than others." Gina nodded. Deep in her controlled mind, she knew this information would be used to enslave more of her people. But the knowledge felt academic, unimportant. The Valkyrie's mental influence made her care only about completing her assigned tasks. Across the Laboratory. Dong-Su worked at another station. He appeared equally controlled, his movements mechanical and precise. Sometimes Gina looked at him and felt a strange flutter of emotion. But the feeling quickly faded under Keth's mental pressure. The Valkyrie homeworld was a marvel of advanced technology. Massive cities stretched across continents, their architecture following organic curves that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Everything was designed to enhance the aliens' natural telepathic abilities. Floating transport pods moved silently through the air, guided by thought rather than physical controls. Buildings reshaped themselves based on the mental commands of their occupants. Even the weather seemed to respond to the collective will of the Valkyrie population. But for all their technological advancement, the Valkyrie were parasites. They had stopped developing their own science centuries ago. Instead, they captured other species and used their knowledge and creativity. Their empire was built on the minds of enslaved races. Gina had become their most valuable human asset. Her expertise in neuroscience made her perfect for understanding and improving their control methods. Under Keth's guidance, she had developed new techniques that made human conversion faster and more complete. The breakthrough had come when she mapped the quantum resonance patterns in human neural tissue. Humans processed information across multiple quantum states simultaneously, something the Valkyrie had not encountered before. By matching these quantum frequencies, they could achieve much deeper control. Commander Null, the Valkyrie leader overseeing human operations, often used Gina for special missions. Her familiar human face and voice made perfect for breaking the resistance of unconquered colonies. Today was one of those missions. Kana stood in the communication chamber of a massive Valkyrie warship, preparing to broadcast to the human colony on Kepler 186F. The settlement had been resisting Valkyrie advances for 3 months. Begin transmission, Null commanded. The holographic projector activated, and Gina's image was sent across space to the human colony. She appeared calm and peaceful, exactly as she had looked during her days as a researcher. Only the complete absence of emotion in her eyes hinted at what had been done to her. "My name is Dr. Gina Kim," she began, her voice carrying the authority of her scientific credentials. "I was part of a research team that made first contact with the Valkyrie 6 months ago. I am speaking to you now to share what I have learned about our new situation on Kepler 186F. The colonists gathered around communication screens in their underground shelters. They had been expecting another surrender demand from the aliens. Instead, they saw a respected human scientist speaking calmly about cooperation. "The Valkyrie are not conquerors in the traditional sense," Gina continued. "They offer something far more valuable than military victory. They offer unity of purpose, freedom from the chaos of individual desire, and access to knowledge beyond human understanding." Her words were carefully chosen to sound reasonable and appealing. The Valkyrie had learned that humans responded better to persuasion than threats. Kina's controlled mind provided the perfect tool for such manipulation. "I have experienced this unity myself," she said. "My consciousness has been expanded beyond anything I had thought possible. I work alongside the Valkyrie as an equal partner in advancing both our species. The fear and conflict that once dominated my thoughts have been replaced by clarity and purpose." Some colonists began to waver. Dr. Kim had been famous throughout human space for her research on consciousness. If she endorsed Valkyrie rule, perhaps resistance was pointless. But others recognized the subtle wrongness in her manner. Her voice carried no real emotion. Her eyes never showed the passion that had driven her scientific career. This was not the Gina Kim they remembered. The broadcast continued for another 10 minutes. Gina described the benefits of Valkyrie control with perfect conviction. She spoke of advanced technology, extended lifespans, and an end to human suffering. Every word was technically true, but the cost remained unspoken when the transmission ended. Gina returned to her laboratory duties. She felt no satisfaction from the successful broadcast, no concern for the humans she had just helped condemn. The mission was complete, and that was all that mattered. But deep in her controlled mind, something stirred. For just a moment during the broadcast, she had thought about her old research. The memory had felt different somehow, more vivid than usual. The feeling lasted only seconds before Keth's influence reasserted itself. Gina returned to her work, unaware that her scientific training had begun the long process of understanding her own mental prison. The breakthrough came during a routine neural maintenance session. Gina lay perfectly still on the examination table while Keth adjusted the quantum resonance patterns in her brain. The alien's long fingers moved over glowing controls, fine-tuning the mental chains that kept her enslaved. But this time, something was different. As Keth worked, Gina's scientific mind began to analyze what was happening to her. The controlled part of her consciousness dutifully reported the sensations to her master. But deeper in her brain, hidden thoughts started to form. The Valkyrie control worked by matching quantum frequencies in human neural tissue. Schnee had helped develop this technique herself under alien guidance. But now, with Keth's attention focused on the technical aspects of the procedure, she could observe the process from a new angle. Human brains were more complex than the Valkyrie realized. They operated across multiple quantum states simultaneously, something no other species in the galaxy could do. The aliens had learned to control the primary quantum layer, but they did not understand the deeper levels. Gina began to see the pattern. The Valkyrie control was like a net thrown over her consciousness. It caught the obvious thoughts and emotions, but smaller ideas could slip through the gaps. Her years of meditation and mental discipline developed during long hours of research gave her the tools to work with these hidden spaces. She started with tiny exercises. During breaks between assignments, she would count backwards from 100, focusing entirely on the numbers. The controlled part of her mind saw this as harmless mental activity. Each counting session helped her strengthen the uncontrolled areas of her consciousness. The process was dangerous and exhausting. Every hidden thought had to be carefully disguised as compliance behavior. If Keth discovered what she was doing, the consequences would be terrible. The aliens had ways of making their control absolute, erasing everything that made a person human. But Gina persisted. She had spent her career studying consciousness and neural patterns. Now she was using that knowledge to map her own mental prison. She learned to create compartments in her mind, small areas where her true thoughts could exist without detection. The first major breakthrough came after 3 weeks of careful mental exercises. During a laboratory session, Gina suddenly realized she could choose which memories to access. The controlled part of her mind automatically retrieved information when Keth commanded it. But she could also deliberately remember other things without triggering the alien's attention. She began remembering her relationship with Dong-Su, not just the basic facts that Keth allowed her to recall, but the deeper emotions and connections. The way Dong-Su smiled when he was excited about a new discovery, the sound of his laugh, the feeling of his hand holding hers during their long conversations about consciousness and free will. These memories were painful because they reminded her of everything she had lost, but they were also powerful. They proved that her true self still existed somewhere beneath the alien control. The next phase of her awakening came when she started observing other controlled humans. The Valkyrie had hundreds of enslaved people, from dozens of species working throughout their facilities. Gina watched them carefully, looking for signs that others might be fighting their conditioning. She found them in Dong-Su. During their work sessions together, she began to notice tiny details that the aliens missed. The way his eyes lingered on her face for just a moment too long. How his breathing changed when they were assigned to work closely together. Small signs that his feelings for her were creating cracks in his mental chains. Communication was the biggest challenge. Any direct attempt to contact Dong-su would alert Keth immediately. The aliens monitored all interactions between controlled subjects, but Gina's knowledge of neural patterns gave her an idea. Humans had evolved complex systems for nonverbal communication. Microexpressions, body language, and unconscious behavioral cues carried meaning below the level of conscious thought. The Valkyrie understood spoken language and obvious gestures. They missed these subtle human signals. Gina began experimenting with tiny changes in her posture and facial expressions when she worked near Dong-su. A slight tilt of her head that lasted 1 second longer than necessary. A pattern of blinking that matched the rhythm of her heartbeat when she thought about their past together. It took 2 weeks. But eventually, Dong-su responded. His own micro-expressions began to mirror hers. His breathing synchronized with hers during their work sessions, without words or obvious gestures. They established a hidden channel of communication that existed beneath the alien awareness. The real breakthrough came when they were assigned to convert a new group of human prisoners. Gina and Dong-su were supposed to demonstrate the benefits of Valkyrie control to help break down resistance. But during the presentation, something extraordinary happened as Gina spoke about the peace and purpose that came with alien guidance. She made eye contact with one of the prisoners. The man was a colony administrator named Wu Jin, and his eyes showed the same fierce intelligence that had once driven her own research. In that moment, Gina made a decision that could have destroyed everything. She allowed a tiny fraction of her real emotion to show in her expression. Just for 1 second, she let Wu Jin see the trapped, desperate person hidden beneath her controlled exterior. Wu Jin's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. He had seen the truth. More importantly, his reaction told Gina that not all humans could be broken by Valkyrie methods. Some people had natural resistance to the alien control. After the presentation, Gina returned to her quarters with her mind racing. She had confirmed what her research suggested. The Valkyrie control worked by exploiting specific quantum resonance patterns in neural tissue. But human consciousness was built on quantum foundations that the aliens did not fully understand. Some humans, like herself and Dong-su, could learn to resist by using their deeper understanding of their own minds. Others, like Wu Jin, might have natural barriers that made them harder to control in the first place. For the first time in months, Gina felt something that had been completely absent from her existence. Hope. The Valkyrie were not invincible. Their control could be fought, and maybe even defeated. But she also knew that hope alone would not be enough. If humanity was going to survive, someone would need to find a way to turn the aliens' own weapons against them. And that someone would probably have to be her. The awakening was complete. Dr. Gina Kim was ready to begin the fight for her species' freedom. Gina stared at the massive neural network display in front of her. For weeks, she had been studying the Valkyrie control system from the inside. What she discovered changed everything. She was not just a victim of their mind control. She had become a crucial part of their entire telepathic network. The aliens had made a fatal mistake. In their effort to use her expertise, they had given her deep access to their command structure. Every human she helped convert created a new connection in the network. Every broadcast she made to resistant colonies strengthened her position. In their system, Keth stood behind her, monitoring her work, as always. But he could not see the hidden calculations running through her free thoughts. Gina was mapping the entire Valkyrie control network, looking for weaknesses that only a human consciousness could perceive. The next conversion operation will be our largest yet, Keth informed her. We will process 5,000 humans simultaneously. Your neural templates will guide the procedure. Kina nodded obediently while her hidden mind raced. 5,000 humans converted at once would create an enormous surge of psychic energy through the network. If she could find a way to disrupt that process, the feedback could damage the entire system, but she needed help. Even with her growing understanding of Valkyrie technology, she could not act alone. The plan she was developing would require perfect timing and coordination with other free humans. That night, during her rest period, Gina used their secret communication methods to contact Dong-Su. Through careful microexpressions and body language, she conveyed her discovery about the network structure. His response showed both understanding and determination. Over the following days, they worked together to refine the plan. Dong-Su had been assigned to monitor life support systems throughout the Valkyrie facility. His access gave them another crucial piece of the puzzle. If they could coordinate their actions perfectly, they might be able to cause system-wide failure. The breakthrough came when Gina realized that human quantum consciousness could be weaponized. The Valkyrie had never encountered minds that existed across multiple quantum states. They assumed all consciousness worked like their own single-layer telepathic abilities, but human awareness was different. It operated like a complex musical harmony, with thoughts existing simultaneously across many quantum frequencies. The Valkyrie control could only suppress the dominant frequency, leaving the others mostly intact. Gina began designing what she privately called a feedback virus. It was a pattern of thoughts designed to resonate across all human quantum consciousness levels at once. If she could introduce this pattern into the Valkyrie network during a mass conversion, it would create interference that their systems could not handle. The virus required her to go deeper into the network than any controlled being had ever attempted. She would need to convince Keth to enhance her connection, making her even more valuable to their operations while secretly positioning herself to strike. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Commander Null announced a special operation to convert the remaining population of 3 human colonies simultaneously. Over 15,000 people would be brought under Valkyrie control in a single coordinated assault. This will require unprecedented neural coordination, Keth explained to Gina. You will need direct connection to our primary control matrix. The process is dangerous, but your expertise makes you the only viable candidate. Gina felt a cold thrill of anticipation. This was exactly what she had been waiting for. I understand the risks, she replied in her controlled voice. When do we began? The preparation took 2 days. Valkyrie technicians installed quantum resonance amplifiers throughout Gina's nervous system. The devices would allow her to process and direct the thoughts of thousands of humans simultaneously. They also made her incredibly vulnerable to psychic feedback during the installation. Gina used her hidden mental techniques to prepare her consciousness for what was coming. She compartmentalized her awareness, creating protected spaces where her virus pattern could exist without detection. The process was exhausting and dangerous, but absolutely necessary. Dong-Su played his part perfectly. He volunteered for enhanced duties during the mass conversion, claiming his dedication to Valkyrie ideals. The aliens accepted his offer, assigning him to monitor critical life support systems during the operation. Meanwhile, Gina made contact with the free human colonies through carefully worded broadcasts. Hidden in her surrender demands were subtle signals that only trained military personnel would recognize. Commander Wu Jin, now leading the resistance from a secret base, understood her messages and began preparing his forces. The day of the mass conversion arrived. Gina took her position at the center of the Valkyrie command ship, surrounded by alien technicians and quantum amplification equipment. Thousands of human prisoners had been gathered in processing facilities across 3 star systems. Initialize primary neural link. Keth commanded. Gina felt the full weight of the Valkyrie network flowing through her consciousness. She could sense every controlled mind in their empire, feel the artificial thoughts imposed on millions of enslaved beings. The experience was overwhelming and horrible, but it also showed her exactly what she needed to destroy. Beginning conversion sequence, she announced, her voice carrying across multiple star systems through the quantum communication array. The mass conversion began. 15,000 human minds were simultaneously invaded by Valkyrie controllers. Gina felt each one as they fell under alien influence, her thoughts becoming part of the growing network. This was the moment. As the conversion reached its peak, with maximum psychic energy flowing through every connection, Gina released her virus. The feedback pattern exploded across the quantum network like lightning, Every human consciousness touched by Valkyrie control suddenly resonated with the same disruptive frequency. The aliens' single-layer telepathic abilities could not process the complex interference. Controllers throughout the Valkyrie fleet screamed as alien emotions flooded their minds. For the first time, they experienced the fear and rage of every being they had ever enslaved. The psychic feedback was so intense that many of them collapsed immediately. Keth staggered backwards, his large black eyes wide with shock and pain. "What is happening?" he gasped. Gina smiled for the first time in months. Her true personality was flooding back as the control network shattered around them. "You made one mistake," she said, her voice now carrying genuine emotion. "Never understood what human consciousness really is." Chaos erupted throughout the ship as controlled beings suddenly found their minds free. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Across 3 star systems, newly freed humans turned on their former captors with fury born from months of mental slavery. But this was more than just revenge. Something extraordinary had happened during the feedback virus attack. Gina felt it first. As the Valkyrie control network collapsed around her, she discovered that traces of the psychic connection remained. Not the dominating force that had enslaved her mind, but something entirely different. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of other freed humans, sharing their experiences without losing her own identity. "Dongsu," she called out through both voice and thought. "Can you hear me?" His response came back clearly, even though he was 3 techs away in the life support section. "I can feel you, Gina. Your mind is like a warm light in the darkness." The phenomenon was spreading. Humans who had been freed by the virus were discovering they could communicate telepathically with each other. But unlike Valkyrie mind control, this connection was voluntary and respectful. Each person maintained their individual consciousness while gaining the ability to share knowledge and coordinate actions. "Commander," Wu Jin's voice reached them from the distant resistance base. "All units, this is incredible. I can sense our forces across multiple star systems. We can coordinate like never before." The Valkyrie were not prepared for this development. Their entire military strategy was based on controlling enemy minds or fighting confused, isolated opponents. They had never faced an enemy that could share thoughts and coordinate perfectly across vast distances. Keth staggered to his feet, his pale blue skin now showing dark patches of stress. "This is impossible," he gasped. "No species has ever developed distributed consciousness. It violates the basic principles of telepathic evolution." Gina stood calmly in the center of the shattered control room. The quantum amplifiers were still connected to her nervous system, but now they've served her purposes instead of alien ones. Through the enhanced connection, she could sense every human in the galaxy who had been touched by Valkyrie mind control. "Never understood what you were dealing with," she told Keth. "Human consciousness is not like yours. We do not think in single layers or simple patterns. Our minds exist across multiple quantum dimensions simultaneously." The alien controller tried to reassert his mental dominance, focusing his telepathic abilities on Gina's enhanced neural connection. But the feedback virus had changed her on a fundamental level. His psychic attack simply passed through her consciousness without effect. "Pure control worked by suppressing our dominant thought patterns," Gina continued. Humans always think on multiple levels at once. Okay. You could never control all of them. And now that we understand how your system works, we can turn it against you. Across the Valkyrie fleet, the battle was going badly for the aliens. Its free humans fought with perfect coordination, sharing tactical information instantly and supporting each other without the need for traditional communication systems. Every victory by human forces was immediately known by all other fighters, boosting morale and tactical awareness. But more than that, the freed humans were displaying abilities that surprised even themselves. Years of suppressed emotions and thoughts were flooding back with incredible intensity. Some discovered enhanced pattern recognition abilities. Others found they could process multiple complex problems simultaneously. The Valkyrie conditioning had accidentally strengthened certain aspects of human neurodevelopment. Dong-Su appeared in the control room, having fought his way through confused alien security forces. His face showed the same mix of determination and wonder that Gina felt in her own heart. "The life support systems are secure," he reported. "But Gina, something amazing is happening. The humans we freed are not just fighting back. They are evolving. The psychic connection is making us stronger and smarter." Gina nodded. She could feel it too. The quantum consciousness network that linked freed humans was more than just communication. It was allowing them to share knowledge, insights, and capabilities in ways that multiplied their individual strengths. Commander Nall burst into the control room with a squad of Valkyrie warriors. The alien commander's large black eyes showed fear for the first time since the invasion began. "Surrender immediately," Nall demanded. "We can offer you better terms if you cease this resistance now." "You are in no position to offer terms," Gina replied calmly. Through her enhanced connection, she could sense human victories throughout the star system. The Valkyrie forces were collapsing as their communication and control systems failed. "We offer you the same choice you gave us," Dong-Su added. "Submit to our authority willingly or face the consequences." Nall raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Keth grabbed his arm. The controller's expression showed something the humans had never seen from a Valkyrie before. "Respect." "Wait," Keth said quietly. "Look at what they have become. This is not simple rebellion, okay? They have transcended their original capabilities. We cannot defeat them through force." Gina stepped forward, her consciousness still connected to thousands of humans across multiple star systems. "Your empire was built on stealing the knowledge and abilities of other species, but you never understood the most important thing about consciousness itself. The greatest strength of any thinking being is not the ability to control others," Dong-Su continued. "It is the ability to choose cooperation over domination." "What are you proposing?" Nall asked, his weapon lowering. "Freedom," Gina said simply. "For your species and for all the others you have enslaved. The quantum consciousness network can be shared, but only with those who choose to join it willingly." Over the following hours, the Valkyrie leadership was forced to face a new reality. Their empire was crumbling as enslaved species throughout the galaxy broke free using techniques shared through the human consciousness network. Some Valkyrie chose to fight to the end and were defeated by coordinated resistance forces. Others, like Keth, recognized that cooperation offered more than conquest ever could. The war ended not with total victory for either side, but with transformation. The Valkyrie Empire became the foundation for a new kind of galactic civilization. Species that had been enemies for centuries learned to share thoughts and knowledge, while maintaining their individual identities. Gina and Dong-Su returned to their research, but now their work had a different purpose. 8. They helped other species develop defenses against mental domination, while learning to use voluntary telepathic connections for peaceful cooperation. Years later, Gina stood on the observation deck of a new type of research station. Around her, beings from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the consciousness network existed. Do you ever regret what happened? Ku asked, joining her at the VIEWPORT. Gina smiled, feeling the warm presence of thousands of connected minds across the galaxy. The Valkyrie thought they were adding humanity to their collection of conquered species. Instead, we showed everyone what freedom really means. Not just freedom from control, Dongsu agreed. Freedom to choose connection, cooperation, and growth. Aside, the viewport, ships from many worlds moved through space in perfect harmony. Their crews sharing thoughts and dreams across the vast distances between stars. Humanity had not just survived first contact with hostile aliens. They had transformed the entire galaxy.